All right. Okay, let's call the meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. I think because it is remote, I think I have to read this little blurb, is my understanding. Okay. On Thursday, March 12th, 2020, Governor Baker issued an order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20. That order was effective immediately until it is rescinded when the state of emergency is terminated, and that has not been rescinded yet. Okay, so we need to do a call, a call to make sure we have quorum. So if people could just answer, that would be great. Carl,
Present.
Eric,
Here.
Paul,
Present.
Joe,
Here.
Elizabeth Child's present. Okay, we're all here. Excellent. John, are you who's gonna present to us the first, the operating supplemental appropriations? Or do you want to do that first before we go to ARPA? You want to do ARPA first? It's on the agenda in this order.
I'll be happy to follow whatever order you recommend, Madam Chairwoman.
Well, why don't we start with so we make sure we have enough time. Why don't we start with the supplemental appropriations for the operating budget? And I would just suggest maybe we start with the ones that are most straightforward and then move to the ones that are less straightforward.
Sounds good.
All right.
Good afternoon, everybody. You should have a copy of a FY22 supplemental budget request Excel spreadsheet that was sent along. It might be helpful if everybody mutes because we're getting a lot of feedback.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
The particular document will be associated with two additional forms that Phil Iantoski is sending the chair now, which summarizes the offset and appropriation of each of these items by budget code. So let me go through the supplemental budget request. The county had a total FY21 surplus of $5,288,511.54. By all measures, it was an historic year with regard to revenue exceeding expenditures. That particular amount needed to be offset by $500,000, which was appropriated into the FY22 budget for balancing purposes. So the real adjusted surplus is shown at the top of your sheet, and it's 4.788,511.54. One small housekeeping issue, if I could ask you all just to bear with me for a moment. The version you received had a very late adjustment made to it. If you'll note, under information technology, the asset management software shown as $50,000 was adjusted up to $80,000. That was offset by a reduction in the commissioner's office furniture, which is now $15,000. And I also removed $15,000 from the stabilization balance. So it's a $30,000 offset total, but I wanted to let you know the version you have is a little different by 30 grand than the one I have. And I'm happy to send along the updated one following this meeting. But now that the housekeeping is out of the way, let me proceed. So right now we're proposing to transfer $1,045,277 to our stabilization account. I'm proposing to fund the FY22 capital spending budget at $894,300. Our capital budget for FY23 will come from the FY21 surplus, and I'm setting aside $1 million today for that particular budget. The FY22 supplemental needs, which we'll go through in just a brief moment, total $648,934. I'm adding additional proposal for OPEB contribution of $200,000. And finally, the round out of the surplus would be to move $1 million to the capital relief fund. And this will serve two purposes. One is it will act as relief for the Norfolk County Agricultural School, and I'll get into that purpose in a minute. And also FY22 county relief as needed. As we progress into the fiscal year, there may be additional supplemental needs. We'll draw upon this $1 million to satisfy whatever those matters become. So Madam Chairwoman, I'm happy to keep going if you'd like, or I can pause at this point. Somebody is on, who's not on mute. There we go.
John, can I ask you a quick question on that?
Go.
This is the document we're talking about, correct?
It is.
Okay, can you go just run down the numbers real quick? Because it looks like some of my numbers weren't even close to what you said. I want to make sure I have the right document in front of me.
Of course. The available FY22 surplus budget, 4,788,511.54.
Okay,
Is that good?
yep,
Less transfer to stabilization, 1,045,277.54.
okay.
Your
wait a minute.
your number is off by $15,000, Eric, correct?
Right, okay, so 1,045,227.54,
277.54, right.
277.54, yeah,
The capital FY22 is 894,300.
okay,
The FY23 capital budget is 1 million even.
yep,
The FY22 supplemental needs 648,934.
and that's the 15,000, right?
Nope, that should be the same. It was just a wash.
No, the amount I have is 633,984.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Yeah, I beg your pardon. You are correct.
That's the $15,000 being
Yep.
reclassified, right?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, all right,
OPEB 200 and the final capital fund $1 million.
okay, I got it, thanks.
Square? Okay.
Yep.
So I'll keep going, Elizabeth.
That's great, John. Keep going, I think, unless anybody else has any other questions of the basics.
The FY21 surplus, I just wanted to show you under the first caption, item number 1, is historic. Compared to FY20, 19, 18, and 17, you can see the trend upward is quite impressive. It's an amount we likely not see again, so I'm not counting on it forever, but it was good to have. We're trying to spread it around nicely to cover a lot of our areas. Number 2, so the stabilization fund. Currently, the stabilization balance is $3,875,117, or just under 12% of our FY22 operating budget. This additional $1,045,000 will increase the fund balance to $4,920.395, or 15.2% of that FY22 budget. It's a trend in the right direction. For those of you who've been working with Mark Abrahams, you'll note that one of the goals that we try to achieve in our new financial procedures is to try to achieve a higher level or percentage of stabilization, because the volatility of revenue within a county blend fund mix is so great. A 10% cap would not necessarily give us the kind of relief we would need to get through any rainy day. A 20% cap is more generous. It's harder to achieve, but in the event it does become a rainy day, if we do have close to 20% in reserves, we're in much better financial shape to get past that difficulty. So with this transfer, we're getting closer. We'll achieve just over 15%. Number 3, the FY22 capital spending was built from the 5-year capital plan that was prepared by the Abrahams Group. You folks may recognize that the FY22 capital plan was approved back in June by the commissioners and the advisory board. So we turned in July and sent out the approval for the departments in Norfolk County to begin spending against the approved capital plan. This funds that amount. You'll note at the top of the page, there's a few of these call out boxes. And I just wanted to draw your eye to the fact that the capital budget was really 1.1 million, but there were items that are funded from deeds excise and the registry tech fund and so forth that offset that delta. Okay. Moving on. The FY23 capital plan per the Abrahams Group included a $1.59 million item for the Wollaston Course irrigation upgrade. I removed that item from the capital plan. It is much too large as a singular project to fund an FY23. Some of you folks may be familiar with what's going on in Quincy right now. Earlier this month, the commissioners held a meeting with the state, DCAM, as they are moving towards taking the Quincy District Court from the county. Currently, the commissioners have approved the state DCAM to perform a site assessment to evaluate the conditions of the building and the land. Following the site assessment, we expect the Commonwealth to come back to us and begin an appraisal process to evaluate the cost of what that project, what that property may yield. The appraisal process will likely be sometime in 2022, but things are accelerating rather quickly as the trial courts begin to elevate the replacement of the district court as one of their top capital projects. As you may know, the Commonwealth intends to not only take the property, but then turn it into what's called a regional justice center, which will have a multifaceted court experience. Once and if the county accepts the sale from the Commonwealth, we'll experience a windfall in the millions of dollars. Currently, I checked the Quincy Assessor's Office of that property, and assessments from cities or towns are sometimes a little behind on the market value. But I can tell you Quincy has the property at just under $6 million in value. Given what little I know about the Quincy real estate market, that's probably low. But it'll give you some idea of what that property could yield to the county when the sale goes through. And I'm projecting that sale to happen somewhere in FY23, on the outside FY24, so shortly. And if and when that happens, I can imagine coming before you and the advisory board to suggest trying to keep as much of that resource within the Quincy sector, i.e. the Wollaston Recreational Center, and invest it into that asset, which, as we all know, needs some relief as well. That would include the irrigation system. Again, it's kind of looking ahead. There's no one's inking anything right now, but that's sort of the structural thinking I have about that rather expensive irrigation item. Any questions so far? Are we good?
Yeah, John, let me ask you a question on that item. I don't have a problem with the plan. I think it's a sound plan and it sounds really good, but I guess my question would be, by delaying this, are we causing ourselves any problems as far as costs that are going to be needed to expend it in order to keep this irrigation system going properly? And what's the offset? You know what I mean? Like, is it going to cost us $20,000 or $30,000 a year for the next 2 years to make sure to put Band-Aids on before we get the money to do the full version? Or is that irrigation system sufficient enough to let us go for the next couple of years in preparation for doing this?
I think that's a great question. You always have to be mindful of any kind of offset with operational plugging, if you will, to kind of cure a capital ill. In this case, though, Eric, I think we're in good shape. The golf course has a maintenance budget. They recognize that the irrigation process, the irrigation solution is, a year or two away at the earliest. They have been maintaining an irrigation system, and what little I know is that when they do have leaks or problems, they fix them. But the irrigation infrastructure is old and it's just not efficient. And I think what Carl envisions is something that provides a more efficient water distribution network to the greens and the infrastructure. So to answer your question in short, I think they have it covered, but there is no doubt the infrastructure continues to fail. They patch, they move on. It's not optimal, but they know the relief is at least a year or two away.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Now on to the nitty gritty, the supplemental needs. So far this fiscal year, things are going along pretty well. I haven't heard too many problems with any departments experience any serious neglect or problems with funding. A lot of these items are reflective of areas of improvement that we see the county operations in dire need of. Technology is a big item that I recognized when I came in here. The county commissioner's office has a very bare bones, and that's being kind, technology infrastructure. Working with Mark McDonald, we've scoped out a few solutions. These technology investments also go towards better and higher use of the Tyler Technologies Infinite Visions product that I think you folks know controls our payroll and our budget platforms. We intend to move to Microsoft 365 for $7,800. We need to purchase 2 servers totaling $10,099. The cloud storage that will be part of the Infinite Vision system that we're investing in will be $63,254. I want to pause in this item very quickly. While I don't have the depth of knowledge of what is in the content of the FY22 budget, I have learned that the FY22 budget includes a $45,000 line item to maintain the Tyler product. This $63,254 investment is a one-time cost, and our annual cost going forward will be less $18,000. So effectively, this becomes a financial wash because we're already carrying maintenance. Okay. Moving on, we are looking for an add-in for the cloud service of $31,000. This gives us mobile capacity. Many of you folks work outside the public sector, and you already recognize the benefit of having a mobile workforce. Certainly during COVID, we recognize that individuals need access from remote areas. This add-in will give people access into our payroll system and our budget system so that in the event they need to check their payroll, input their payroll, or individuals who are working remotely need to access the Tyler product, this add-in gives us that capability. Excuse me. The Microsoft Software Enterprise license of $3,700 complements the email system that we're investing in. We're looking to purchase $1,000 software called Visio. This product is used primarily, it's Microsoft product for organizational charts, table of organizations, and so forth. This product is being is necessitated because the Abrahams Group is going to give us a very comprehensive table of organizations for all of our units within county government. Included in each organizational chart will be the names of individuals. Those change. People get promoted, they resign, we hire people, we reorganize. This product will allow Michelle to manipulate our organizational chart and keep it updated and available for the Finance Committee and the Advisory Board going forward. The county has never had this kind of resource before. The asset management software, this is the item I started with. I just wanted to let you know, this is an exciting item. In my experience, public organizations that have solid control over their public assets are in good shape because it feeds everything else. If you know where your chairs, your desks, your computers are, that's a running start. This product does so much more. We're examining items on the market right now that will provide software for us to not only understand our assets, but easily be able to account for them for GAAP asset control measures and reporting, warranties, scheduled maintenance, and things of that nature. Some folks who may have experience in the educational sphere, for example, may have heard of a product called School Dudes. It's that kind of a platform. We don't have a way currently to track all of our assets at all. So I've asked our engineering department to go into the market and start kicking the tires on some opportunities. And they've got a really good grip on what those products look like. With your approval today, we'll take this authorization and move to bid and then secure the product for implementation immediately so that we can start building a database that shows us where our assets are, what is our total value, and most importantly, what is our scheduled maintenance? When do those rooftop units need to be replaced? When were they installed? All the way down to filter replacement. It's a very active product. And when it's used, your system, your infrastructure is in great shape. I've had experience with it, and I can't speak highly enough. So it's a big, big investment. The last two items are 614 High Street investments. When I came here, I recognized that we had a key access system, front door, top floor. We don't have any electronic access within 614 High Street. This will give us security upgrades on the outside to monitor from camera's perspective the outside angles of the front door and individuals entering our building. It will also give us electronic card access control into the building. It will arm the building after certain hours, and we'll be able to obviously distribute to individuals an ID card, which will have an embedded chip in it that gives you access into the building. Many of us understand this technology. We've seen it in other places we work. The county just needs to kind of come up to speed with this type of secure environment. Moving on, the Walston Golf Course. There were three items that I understand for walkway improvements that were originally envisioned for the bond that is funding the Superior Court Dome. Because of that project cost, these items had to fall off, and they needed to find a place to be funded. I visited the golf course a couple of months ago. These walkways are in deplorable, high liability shape. They have to get done. So these quotes are pretty good. It'll provide a small walkway improvement at the clubhouse, the 14th and 15th green. If you played the course, the 15th green is that stairway to heaven that was built about 10 or 15 years ago out of concrete. that is non-compliant. So we need to replace that with a compliant walkway. The last item is something the commissioners have a strong interest in. We recognize the golf course is more than that. It's a recreational facility. Having been there, you can observe that the playground itself has not seen any meaningful updates or structures in at least a generation. We're seeding a project of $100,000 to improve the playground at that location. And simultaneously, I've asked my Assistant Director, Bill Buckley, to start working with the legislative delegation to try to find state resources to match or exceed our investment for the benefit of families and children who want to use that space. I'm not an expert on swings and playgrounds, but I do know whatever you think it's going to cost, you're wrong. It's a very expensive thing to do. These things are made for rugged and daily use. They're exposed to the elements. So we expect the cost to be more than $100,000. This is just a stake in the ground. We're looking to express our interest in making sure that we're investing in the property for the recreational benefit of families. The next item is a legal request from the Register of Deeds.
Excuse me, John? I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
I don't
Eric.
mean to interrupt
Go ahead.
you. I have a question on the playground and
Sure.
actually on all the stuff you've had up to this point, especially the playground though. Do we know if there's any opportunity for any grants to fund that, and or is any of these items under IT qualify under the CARES Act to use any of the CARES money or the opera money going forward?
Short answer on CARES is no, Eric. CARES is sunsetting next month, as you may know.
Right.
The state has basically shut us down in our requests. I was trying, for example, I don't want to go off script here, but I was trying to get 2 large rooftop units that the schools are doing at Kemp Hall and in the cafeteria funded by CARES. Highly eligible projects, but the state said no. They did fund purifiers, which was great.
Okay.
But the other items will not likely qualify, nor would ARPA directly. These are infrastructure items that don't benefit the pandemic response. The playground might though, and I want to go back to that because I'm on your thought. We see this as an opportunity to go shopping around, as I mentioned, to the legislature for potential place to fund a significant portion of the investment. It's $100,000. Our hope is that we can do something with it immediately and then build on that parcel. If you can visualize it, Eric, it's kind of like a linear park. It's a left to right park. The
Right.
benches were made out of cedar. Carl said the benches are failing. You can't even sit in them. The swings, they are metal poles, metal chains, and plastic seats. Those are probably not compliant if you were to try to put them on a public property today.
Right. Yeah.
So we're going to look to try to make improvements, but build on a platform that can expand and provide more recreational use through hopefully legislative or maybe some grant resource. I have Bill Buckley on it, so I have high hopes to get them to secure those resources.
All right, great. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions before we move on? All right. So Register of Deeds, Legal Services. The Register has engaged legal services in FY22. Earlier this year, I believe it was August 2nd, he sent over a transfer request to move money from one of his printing codes to cover legal service requests. I spoke to Registrar O'Donnell about the item. I recommended that he reevaluate the request because moving $40,000 out of his printing account would leave him in a very financially precarious position to fulfill those obligations through the end of the fiscal year based on his spending patterns. And the Register is an elected official, so I defer to him, but he notified me that he listened to me and he wanted to instead bring this cost item before the Finance Committee and ultimately the Advisory Board to fund legal services associated with his operations. So he's no longer, I think, interested in moving through a transfer to resolve his legal issues. He's rather looking to fund it through supplemental needs, which as indicated in the note, would be funded from dedicated deeds excise. Okay.
Is the Register on for this? No. John, should we take each of these items separately or should we get through the whole list and then come back?
I would get through the whole list and then come back.
Okay, all right, great. Okay,
I'm almost done.
all right, let's go through the list and we'll come back and discuss each one. Okay, thank you.
Just note the Norfolk Aggie does not have any supplemental budget requests. They will, however, under a capital transfer form, be looking for your approval to move money from one account in capital to another. They're moving an approved item around to afford some priorities. It's a net zero output, but they're not looking for supplemental money at this time.
Love
Um,
net zeros.
Beg
I
pardon?
just want to answer
said I
that the
love- I
register
love
is
net
not
zeros.
on.
The register is not on.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, maintenance. We are looking to invest $23,000 in steam traps for the Rentham and Dedham District Courts, and also $100,000 for the Stoughton District Court project overage. I would like to explain. This project has been a bit of an odyssey. You folks may remember that back in FY21, the contract original project budget was $220,000. The project was put out to bid and it was awarded at $132,000. About a month after I got here, there was some concerns after the contractor who had been awarded the contract discovered the underlayment of the roof in Stoughton District Court was not sufficient to hold the weight of the new units. There are 2 units going up on the roofs. Basically, the old units were 1 ton each. The replacement devices that were spec'd by the engineer are 2 tons. So they brought in a structural engineer to evaluate it, and they found that we needed to shore up the underlayment to support this new weight. And the project cost change order all by itself was an additional $107,000. I sought to do a peer review on the mechanical engineer's judgment because I had some concerns about how that proceeded. We brought on a new firm called C.A. Crowley, who over the course of August into early September has completed their work and confirmed today that the project change order is needed. We will need to do an underlayment reinforcement. And as a result, the cost of this project, it exceeds 20% of the total project bid. And so we'll need to rebid. And I emailed Nancy Rockwell today to proceed with rebidding without delay. The good news, there is a little bit of good news on this Odyssey, and that is we own the rooftop units. They're on the ground. One of the reasons it took so long to get things going was because, like anything else during COVID, the supply stream interrupted delivery of those units. We have them now. So right now we're going to undergo a bit of an administrative restart. Nancy will rebid, we'll award the contract and complete the job probably within a month or so, I'm going to guess. There's a little bit of an accounting hiccup here, and I want to explain it. Currently, the contractor's name is Enterprise. They're the company that's doing the work. We have a carryover from FY21 of approximately $63,000. If we rebid and Beth Childs Incorporated gets the contract, that $63,000 encumbrance cannot move because it's a carryover to the new vendor. It will lapse and go back into the general fund. So to avoid any kind of potential conflict with the existing contractor not getting the job, we're just saying, let's fund it directly through this supplemental to the tune of 100,000, because that's the overage. And we'll take the 63,000 that's parked in Enterprise as a carryover, and it will lapse. Okay? Any questions on that at all? All right. The treasurer, legal services. Treasurer Bellotti has requested $10,000 to fund a transitional review of his office. As many of you know, Treasurer Bellotti was elected a year ago. He's approached us looking for resources to get an opinion on services related to his office. It's a very modest cost. And in addition, he's looking to add an administrative support position to his office. This amount that you're seeing in front of you is prorated to start, I believe, October 1st. One of the things about the cost of $22,500, I'm still learning how you all budget around here. So Eric, be nice to me, okay? Mike has 2 individuals on his payroll that are funded at 0.8 FTE, but the budget has them at 100% funded, 100% FTE. So there's a baked in savings on the treasurer's budget of approximately $30,000. So what Treasurer Bellotti is trying to do is to use that money to assign to this administrative support for his needs. But the way I understand it is I have to put forward the new cost item. And again, thinking that the overage within their budget will just revert. All right, if I'm wrong on that, just let me know, but I'm trying to be transparent, and let you know, number one, it's a new position, it's 20 hours a week. And number two, this is how much it's going to cost for supplemental needs. If you folks say, no, zero it out, we'll pay for it with the salary savings, that's what I would do in my old job. You just tell me, but I don't think you all do it that way. I think I have to show the money and let the reversion happen. Any thoughts on that?
Any opinions from the finance committee on that? Is it, I mean, it's clear what we're doing, so
Yeah, it's transparent for sure.
clear
You know,
what we're doing.
I'm trying to put it out
I
there.
mean, as far as how we book it, I don't know if that's really, to me, that's not a major concern. You know, as far as like which way we put it in, I will tell you that the comment of this is the way we've done things in the past never flies with me anyway. If you think it, John, in your opinion, you and I have had conversations and I trust your opinion. If you think that it's more beneficial and easier to book the opposite direction, you know, different than what we've done in the past, I don't have a problem with that at all.
I think it's a classic 6 of one, half dozen the other, Eric. So if you're
Yeah.
okay leaving it the way it is and it doesn't upset the apple cart, let's stay with the program. We will see a reversion though on the back end.
Can I
Maybe
just,
this is something
Joe, you want to
I'm
add
sorry,
it?
Joe, go
yeah,
ahead.
can I just jump in for 1 second, just for correction? I'm sorry for wearing a striped shirt during a Zoom meeting, but on our budget, the employees are budgeted at their 100% amount because that's what the position is. But we do have it below the line. After all the employees, there is an amount that we back out the percentage that they don't work. So our bottom line is at their 80%. So we don't have that money in our budget to use. So that would have to come from elsewhere, John.
That explains a lot. Okay,
I see it. Reduced work week savings, is that what it's called, Joe?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, thanks for that.
thanks, Joe.
You're
All
welcome.
right, moving on. Engineering, we have a project right behind the district court called Old River Place Drainage. This project had been approved, but the Dedham Conservation Commission recently paid us a visit. And as a result, we have to modify our expectation of cost. The design and permitting is about $11,000 short. And the construction cost, again, COVID related, is $33,000 needed. So these are augmented costs needed to complete the project over here in Dedham. It's a drainage project that transverses some private property behind our lot. The commissioner's office is looking for $15,000 in office furniture. If you paid us a visit lately, it looks like we are the winner of a yard sale. We have a lot of old mismatched furniture. Bill Buckley's in love with a lot of it because it is antiquity. But I would like to invest in some new skid chairs for the commissioner's office that are a lot more comfortable to sit in for hours at a time, and invest in certain file cabinets for Commissioner Stady and Michelle for HR records, and so forth. So it's a modest request to improve the office furniture of the commissioner's office. Total ask $688,934. So that is the supplemental needs, Beth. I can wrap up the last two items very quickly if you'd
Okay.
like, and then
Yeah.
we can move to discussion if that's okay with you.
Yes, thanks, John. Yeah,
Um,
then we'll move to discussion.
So one of the things that I've spent a fair amount of time on is our bonded position. I've had multiple conversations with Hilltop Securities about the school ban, our need to go out to bond, our position as an organization. One of the things that we recently chatted about were the improvements the county's making on financial procedures and our investment in reserves, including stabilization. When we're getting audited right now, I think you all know that. Lynch Marini's on site today, and one of the things that constantly comes up is, what's your position on reserves and liabilities? You all probably know this, but now you do. If you don't, now you do. Our OPEB liability is rather high. Not unusual. Many communities have unfunded OPEB liabilities. many others have begun to recognize if you're going to get favorable bond rating for your bonds, you need to have a plan to show how you're going to achieve solvency within your OPEB liability. In this case, the county's done something, and I might add it's a little bit more than that. Over the last several years, at least 2 years, we've funded approximately $1.6 million against the $57 million liability. In FY21 and again in FY22, the county has authorized an additional $100,000 for OPEB payments against that liability. One of the things that I wanted to do today was to show sort of an accentuated view of that investment by adding $200,000 more towards the liability. Again, this is all about optics. We're trying to show Hilltop Securities, our bonding agency, and anyone who reviews our financial position, auditors, that we are committed to a path and a plan to address this liability. We're not ignoring it, most importantly. So while you're not falling off your chairs at $200,000, I think you'll recognize it as a serious step that shows the county's commitment towards that liability. Finally, again, I just want to emphasize the $1 million in the capital fund we're setting aside is part of a strategy that we've talked with the trustees, and I've talked with Rick and John Martin about. The county must reckon. This is very important. This is a seminal issue that I know you all are very sensitive and aware of, but the county must reckon with its structural deficiency. When I was recruited to the position, I was told we're sitting on about a $500,000 deficiency. Where is that deficiency? Well, we all own it, but for all intents and purposes, through some dialogue I've had with the schools, they recognize that a sizable portion resides there because they've incurred a substantial amount of debt over the last several years as a result of the school building and projects that are going on. I believe you'll find in the school budget that they are currently incurring approximately $900,000. It's like $900,000 or $937,000 a year in debt payment for the projects that they have. Everybody bought into those projects. They've been going on for years. But the problem is that the revenue that the schools need to support that new debt was not a perfect match. They don't have adequate revenue, i.e. tuitions, to keep pace with their debt. That's a structural imbalance. Excuse me. I had this conversation. It was very blunt. It was very organic, I might add, with the outgoing superintendent, Tammy Quinn, and Rick. Chairman Little was in the room. And it was a great conversation. I think they all recognize that the county needs to do more and the schools need to do more to come to grips with this difficult position. One of the things I talked to our advisors about was using a portion of this surplus to help them. I had an idea to take $1 million, cut out debt to that amount, and then relieve the schools of some operating impact of that debt. In round numbers, that would save them for every million about $100,000 on their operating budget. The advisor said to me something different. She said, before and if you go down that road, have the schools come up with a plan first. All right, use the carrot approach. The Hilltop Security folks want to speak with the trustees in early November and impress upon them and the schools the need to come up with a plan that will resolve this structural deficiency. That's their problem. I shouldn't say their problems to solve, but I want to collaborate and work with them. But clearly we have to be looking at the tuition rates of the schools and the impact tuition is having on their debt. That reckoning will help guide the schools and ultimately the county on how this operating surplus of $1 million or up to $1 million can help them. I expect to report back to you around the holidays with the progress towards that goal. I'm happy to say that the new superintendent is a great guy, very happy to be working with him. I am honored to work with Rick Fitzpatrick, who has great institutional knowledge, and I think you know he's retiring soon, so we're trying to get as much out of him as possible. But the pieces are in place for us to be successful. I just want to let you know, I take this really seriously. I think you guys pay me a lot of money to make sure that our debt and our overall bonded position is secure. This has to be reckoned with. We cannot kick the can down the road anymore. So hopefully I'll have something to report come December on the progress towards that. Just briefly, Madam Chairwoman, I'm done with my presentation, but I just want to go through these observations. These things didn't make the list, but I also don't want you all to think that I don't see what's coming. This is sort of a snapshot of things that are, they're looming, and they could present some issues down the road. The first is, I mentioned the Superior Court is underway. The scaffolding's up. They've begun their work. They're going to shut down in about 2 months. They do not go up on catwalks in this winter. They'll be back when the winter passes, sometime in April, when the temperatures reach a certain level, for the application of the new product that they're using to restore the dome. The problem with those projects are, it's an old building. It's a really old building. And we won't know of any kind of project problems that were unforeseen that may surface until the spring. There is no contingency in that budget. Okay, so we may need to come back if anything surfaces of a proportion that requires additional funding. The Rentham boiler is 50 years old. It keeps going and going and going, which is great, but we do want to modernize and update our infrastructure. That particular item is in the FY23 budget. I'd like to keep it there unless it fails. I'm knocking on wood. Implementation of the new asset software will help us track maintenance schedules, warranty, and capital needs. I'll be reporting back to you hopefully by the end of the fiscal year, if you approve that item today, on the success and progress that that tool can give the county. The Quincy District Court, as I mentioned, is under site assessment by the Commonwealth. We'll need funds for an independent appraisal later in FY22. During our conversation with the state, our counsel was on the line as well. There was a conversation about the appraisal of the property. The Commonwealth is going to do an appraisal. I think we should do our own as well. So we'll be talking about that probably in the second half of fiscal year 22. The Dedham District Court roof project will be bid out this fall. The work will be done in the spring 2022. But we're going to also have to monitor that for pricing changes associated with supply stream. This transfer also includes funds to fund what's called temporary salaries. I know many of you folks have heard that the county commissioners have approved certain positions in FY22 that are not permanent. They're called temporary full-time, because the Abrahams report is going to recommend to the commissioners consideration for consolidation of certain roles. Facility maintenance and technology are the two areas that have surfaced. So any hires that were put in FY22 for those areas have to be parked under the temporary full-time status. We didn't fund that category. So what we're going to do through this transfer, it's embedded in the numbers I'll give you in a minute. We're moving it from temporary down to, from permanent down to temporary to clean it up. It's a net zero. And finally, the Abrahams report will be delivered on September 22nd, and it will provide extensive recommendation that will likely move to FY23 for implementation. I really look forward to working with you folks on the elements of that project. My staff here has spent hundreds of hours working with that group over the last year, and I know many of you have as well. It's a product that has a lot of investment, and I intend to harvest that cost to the benefit of the county. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, John, so much. I was going to suggest maybe that we take each of the major items for the supplementals in reverse order, partly so we can get to the treasurer as quickly as possible, so you're not sitting here too long, Mr. Bellotti. Let's see if would that be an okay way to go? If we go reverse order, guys? Okay, for discussion. So the commissioner's office, from John's presentation. So the commissioner's office supplemental was the office furniture. Is there any discussion about that supplemental? Bill Buckley, are you particularly upset if we consider supporting that supplemental?
As long as I can take the old stuff and put it in my office.
Madam Chairwoman, can I ask a quick question?
Yes, Eric.
I know we're starting in reverse order, but I just have a comment about OPEB that I'd like to make, and I know that
Oh,
was kind of below
please.
this.
Please, Eric, say that first. Yes, that's actually even lower than the reverse. That's more than the reverse order. Yes.
And I agree with John's assessment 100%. I mean, showing that you're making some contribution to OPEB definitely not just helps the county, but helps the bonding rating. We had a similar issue that happened in our town. And what we did was, rather than coming up with an arbitrary number per each year, What we did was we tied it to a percentage of the total salaries of the town. So what we do in our town is we take 2% of our total salaries for the town, and that's our OPEB contribution against our budget every year. I don't know if that's something we want to consider. I mean, obviously, as far as solvency, I don't think any town is ever going to get to solvency on this in our lifetime. But I'm thinking that may be a conversation for Hilltop, rather than just saying, well, this year we have 50,000, next year we have 100,000, this year we have 200,000. If we tie it to an actual number, that from the information I've had, because we use Hilltop here in Avon as well, and it seems like that was really a good idea at the time, that we tied it to 2%, because this way, and the reason we came up, I think we're either at 2 or 2.5%. And the reason for that was because that also accounted for any CBAs. So when we have a CBA that goes up at 2% annually, the OPEB also goes up to follow it. So that seemed to be so I just wanted to throw out there that may be something to consider in the future, not necessarily to be decided on right now.
And
I
something
agree
that
with
we.
Eric. I
could be
agree
in
with
the-
Eric. I mean, it's a strategy. My community is a lump sum community, but percentages, either way you cut it. Well, I forgot to mention this too, and I want to pass this along. Cindy McGurney, I've had several conversations with her. Joe Dory has worked with her for years. She's a pleasure to talk to. We're lucky to have them. They're very good at what they do. She provides exquisite financial advice, and she reviewed this plan in its draft form last week and was thrilled to see it. She was very impressed. She liked our plan. There wasn't anything she would change. So she had some solid advice, and I want to let you know she complimented you on, or us rather, on the approach of fortifying our reserves. She said the thing that spooks the rating agencies the most is when any organization seeks to draw money from reserves. That is not the case here. We're in great shape as we head into the bond market, probably late this fall, once we get our audit in.
Excellent.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
So that would be something to put into the OPEB strategy going forward, John, is something to build into the budget for the FY23 budget, right?
We can do that. Yep.
All right, that would be a good, that would be a good discussion for us to have at some point. Okay,
Madam Chair,
yes, please. Thanks, Paul.
John, excellent presentation of all the departments, complete breakdown, more than we've seen in a long time, to be very honest with you. And Madam Chairman, I would suggest that unless somebody has a specific question or anything, we accept it as presented.
Well, I would, okay, we can do that, but I was also thinking there's so much here that it might be worthwhile to go through each section, Paul. I don't know.
But there's so much more to cover this afternoon. I didn't know if anybody had a specific question or anything.
Well,
I'm sure nobody's going to question the treasurer on his paltry request.
okay, well, should we just make sure of that? Let's just make sure of that.
Okay.
So, all right, I think that's, yes. So, the
Beth,
commi-
if I could, just quickly, point of
go
order.
ahead, Carl, yes? Or-
It's John.
I'm sorry, John.
To Paul's point, when you do take a vote, depending upon what it is, I would encourage you to evaluate it based upon some numbers I will give you that are associated with the transfer form. I think Phil just emailed it to you. But I'll
Yes.
be happy to help your motion, as I did with the commissioners yesterday, on
Okay.
what that value should be.
Okay, that would be great. All right. So the commissioner's office, there's no discussion about that, it sounds like. Okay. The engineering office, any discussion about that? Okay. The treasurer's office, any discussion about that? Questions about that?
I don't think so. I had some questions about legal services, about how much money is being spent by multiple departments on legal services. And I think the treasurer's office, in some documentation we received, explained out exactly what they were looking for and why they were looking for it. So I'm satisfied with their request and explanation to this point.
Okay. And Treasurer Bellotti, have you expended any of this money yet? You're muted. You're muted, Michael. Michael, you're still on mute. Bill, can we help Michael
It's
unmute?
the little button in the bottom.
Okay.
There we go.
There you go.
There
Sorry
you
about
are.
that.
Treasurer,
Uh,
have you spent any of the money or have you contracted
No,
for it yet?
no, I
No.
have a past relationship in a couple of my former lives with a gentleman named John Kivlin.
Yeah.
He's my special sheriff. He worked for Bill Delahunt. He was a parole board gentleman. He's retired. So what I've asked him to do is just kind of look at in a preliminary way and gather information. He's talked to Billy O'Donnell and other stakeholders around my role relative to APA and traditional statutory roles and obligations I have. So I asked him to do a kind of a quick look at it and to see if it's something that he thought that he could prepare a proposal going forward where he might be able to be constipated with this. So he's doing it kind of pro bono now. It's very light work. And then we're going to sit down. And if he thinks it's something that he can tackle, he's going to send a proposal to me. And if he's not the right fit, at least I know I have the money and I can pursue some other legal avenue. So whatever work is done is very, just laying some work that he knows he's not being paid for.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much, Treasurer. Eric,
Yeah, one question about this, and this is just a general question, and forgive my ignorance on this, but does the county have a county solicitor or a county attorney similar to the towns? And if
Yes.
so, couldn't our legal counsel weigh in on something like this rather than paying an outside firm?
Yeah,
Huh?
well, also, can I say this? And
yeah,
John,
oh,
you
go
can
ahead,
answer.
Michael.
In essence, you have Scott Lopez, who was I think he gets paid hourly, John, or is he on retainer?
He's
Hourly,
hourly.
right? So this work, in some ways, because of, let's be honest, there's so many different perspectives on what's happened in the past couple of years here and who's in control of what accounts. I wanted someone that was independent to me so that there wasn't any perception by any of the major stakeholders that this was somebody just kind of reinforcing an old position, if that makes any sense. And it's also to help me independently figure out what my relationship about APA dollars and responsibility, because I do sign off on it. We're the only county where the commissioners and the chief administrator for the county is doing what has been given to the other treasurers, frankly. And I just want to make sure that I have an independent view. And that's why it's such a low amount. And, John Kilman at the end of the day will probably give us about $40,000 worth of legal services for $10,000. And I want to create the perception of independence with all those folks who might think folks are, carrying certain biases based on history.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we're not like, we doubling up efforts. If we've got
Right.
a county legal counsel that's already worked on opera to this point, have we leaned on that first rather than going to outside? But I'm not questioning your
Right.
decision.
And Eric, and I understand that. And that's why I've kept it a very low amount.
Yeah.
But app is only a small piece of it because
Right.
that's just gonna be a quick look. And it's primarily to have someone reporting to me without any historical view or stake in this. And, hopefully it does reinforce where the county is. But for me, though, it's for cheap money, it gives me what I think is a complete independence. I came to a decision on some of these issues that are still pending.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. John,
Okay,
do you have a
thank you.
comment about the legal stuff in the county?
I think the treasurer answered it adequately. It's this, Scott works for the commissioners and
Okay. It's-
Mike's an independent elected official.
An elected official. Okay, great. Okay. Any other discussion on the treasurer? Okay. None, maintenance. Any discussion on the maintenance amounts? Carl, you have any thoughts about any of that stuff? You want to say anything about that?
No, I do not.
Okay. I know you know a lot about that. Nothing for Norfolk County. Registry of Deeds, $40,000 for the legal services. Any discussion about that? Eric?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions about this. I don't see anything in the paperwork saying what it's for, number one. And I don't know, it's a little vague to me. I know we're not that far into the fiscal year right now, and I guess I'm surprised that we're to the treasurer's situation is different. He's looking for something new, something that we don't have in the past. I don't really know what this 40,000 is for. I mean, I know it's legal services, but are we already over budget for this year? Have we already expended this money and now we're backfilling? I'm not sure exactly what the situation is. And I guess the follow-up question I would have is, and I would throw out to, does this have anything to do with the recent issues?
I'll be happy to try and respond to your questions, Eric. I also respectfully would not want to step on the toes of the register if he happens to be on the call. So, or anyone from the registry. So I don't speak for them, but I can help you understand a little bit of the background, okay?
Okay.
Is there
The-
anybody on the call from the registry?
There is not.
There is not. Okay, all right, John, I'm sorry. I think you're what we're gonna have to go with here.
Tag, you're it.
All
All
right.
right. So I understand that the brief history of legal services within the registry's budget includes a line item for legal services in past years that would be unspent. And that traditionally that money would then be transferred for other uses within that group, by the register throughout the fiscal year. In FY '21, that amount of money was funded, I believe, at around $7,000. And the register in July of 2020 requested that a vendor be set up in the account for legal services. And that's Brody Keston. That's the name of the law firm. And the register spent funds associated with legal services in FY '21, presumably for opinions or other such legal support. In FY '22, the amount was funded at approximately $7,000. I can report to you today that as of August 11th, $6,825 has been expended or encumbered out of the 7,000. So the register has found himself, through the first 2 months, expending essentially or encumbering the full amount of legal services in FY '22. With respect to your question, Eric, about whether or not it has something to do with ongoing litigation, I'm left to guess, but I believe that is the case. The register, as you may know, has publicly taken a lawsuit against the commissioners associated with their actions on the chief information officer for his office. That litigation is still open, so I'm not here to talk about its essence or its pros and cons, but I believe it has something to do with that. In the event that your committee desires more information about specifically if the register has moved from legal opinion to legal defense or legal action as a result of these resources, I defer to Mr. O'Donnell. And I hope I've stated that independently. I'm trying to give you the facts as I know them.
No, that was very good, John. Thank you. And I guess I just, I'm not new to municipal finance, obviously. I'm a little new to the county finance. And I guess my question would be, and maybe it's a question to take offline, is can a department use funds within their department to bring case against the county that feeds them? I don't know if this, and I don't know, I'm perfectly okay with tabling this and having a separate conversation, either as an exec or legal opinion. I'm just a little confused by this. I don't know. I don't know where else. If a department decides they're going to sue the county, they're using public funds to do a public. I don't know. I don't know if I can't articulate. I think you know where I'm going with this, but I can't articulate it straight. Is that, is this allowed? Is there any precedent setting that a department head can use public funds to bring a suit against their governing authority or against their budgeting authority? Let's put it that way.
Madam Chair, may I step
Please.
in?
Yes, of course,
So-
Joe.
Eric, I'm picking up what you're putting down, and I think that and correct me if I'm wrong, Chair, but my just is this. Ostensibly, we don't have any. This request ostensibly is asking the commissioners who have the authority to request that this money be appropriated to the registry to be used to sue them, I think is the way I'm getting it. So in a sense, if you and I were in a lawsuit, Eric, and I gave you the, is how I read it. I don't know if there's another way of looking at it, perhaps there is, but to what you're trying to say, right?
For what I could get from
Uh-oh,
your
you're
conversation, Joe, because you're kind of breaking up a little bit. Yeah, I think we're on the same page on what I'm asking exactly. Yes.
I would, one way to handle this would be.
Oh, there we go.
We don't have the register on the phone. One way to handle this
back.
would be, one possible way to handle this is to table this particular item and transfer until perhaps one of us, or maybe two of us, could go sit down with the register and understand what this is for. And then it could come back in another supplemental if it seems appropriate. It also seems like we probably should have a larger conversation about the purpose, if this is an appropriate purpose of public funds, that we want to be supporting that kind of a, expensing. So that's I mean, I would actually consider a motion for tabling this, but Joe, it looks like you're on, and maybe you've got something to help us with this a little bit.
Well,
I
I
do.
don't know. Wait, did you get my summary? That was kind of like where I was going with it.
That's where you're going
Did
too.
you hear what I
Okay.
said?
Okay.
So, and I don't know what you heard. Did you get me?
We
did
didn't
you
get
get
all
when
of it.
Eric
You
was
didn't get
doing it?
everything you said, Joe. Can you tell
Yeah, we
us?
didn't get everything.
So the gist as I see it, and I think Eric, I was getting what you were saying, and I've been thinking about it a little bit. It appears to me that the registry is asking for money, public money, like you said, from the commissioners who have the authority to appropriate it with approval of the of the advisory board, to give to the registry so the registry can pay bills for suing the commissioners who are giving them the money.
In essence, exactly, yes.
It's kind of crazy. Madam Chair, if I could, maybe a recommendation to Mr. Connor's point is that we proceed through the other items that are for us to this particular topic, and then perhaps we can make a motion to either remove this particular or to approve everything except for this or something like that.
Okay. All right. Paul, yes, please.
If I may, to John. John, is this supplemental budget request supported by the commissioners at this time?
Yes, it is.
So the commissioners are aware of it, and if it's legal action taken against them with money that they're approving or supporting, I think we have no recourse but to support the supplemental request.
Can I jump in?
Yes,
Peter.
Commissioner, please do.
Thank you. So I'm sorry my video isn't working.
Sure it is.
That's a good thing for us, Peter.
We're in, it probably is, yeah. So we're in a weird position because anytime you have, just in general, anytime you have a legal action to don't agree on something.
Peter, you're breaking up.
And commissioners don't have the opinion of the registry. Bills expending county expending. Okay.
Commissioner, you're breaking up. We're having a hard time hearing
Can you still-
everything you say.
You're in and out, Pete. I believe your bandwidth says is suffering, so if you can find a stronger signal.
All right. Let me hold on a second. I'm gonna try moving my computer. Okay.
All right. You want to try there?
How
again.
about now? I'm like right next to the server.
Try
There
that
you go.
now. Okay.
Does it work better now?
Yes.
Okay. So we're in a weird position because we're being sued. And have suits taken place in the past between different departments? They have. In fact, the treasurer's office at different times, decades ago, had sued the commissioners, and Registrar O'Donnell was defendant in that, as were the rest of the commissioners. So it's possible there could be a suit between parties. We're in a weird position because we disagree with the registrar's position. He disagrees with our position, but it's in litigation. So we can't be the individuals who prevent him from being able to file suit by stopping this money. We can't do that. That's not appropriate. We don't agree with it. We think it's foolish that he's burning the money on his end to sue us, and we have to burn money on our end to defend it. But, did we vote this to go to you? Yes, but we voted it to go to you for your opinion. But we really can't have an opinion on it. We really can't recommend it or recommend against it because we're in litigation. Does that make sense?
Yes, Commissioner, that's very helpful to us. Thank you.
But, are we in love with this idea? No, but we're not in love with the lawsuit either. But it isn't our decision to make. It's really your decision.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes.
And I appreciate the fact that because the real nuts and bolts to it that I was trying to get to is there precedent for this in the past? And if the answer is yes, this has happened in the past, it's happened before, then I will not question the legality of it as a whole. So, in that case, I think you've answered my question.
Joe, Dioria, it looks like you're ready to tell us something.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing as Peter, that this office has sued the commissioners in the past, and there is a statute that allows the treasurer to seek summary judgment if the commissioners don't want to pay something that the treasurer thinks is legal to pay. The other thing I will remind you is that this money is the registry's dedicated deeds excise money, so it's not really coming from the county. It's their money. They just have to have it moved into their budget to access it.
Okay, all right. Any other, do we know, we don't know if this money's been expended yet or contracted for yet?
There is no evidence of expenditures beyond the amount that I mentioned earlier, Beth, as of August 11th. It appears he's committed approximately $6,800 of his $7,000 budget.
Okay, all right, okay. All right, any other conversation on this particular item?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Rigby.
So, and this is something that I put out to all the members, and perhaps Joe Dioria may be the best person to answer this question. But through you, Madam Chair, if someone was to go into that 64D account to pay for something, what is there any statutory requirement to show what it's being spent on? So do you have to have some sort of contract, some sort of invoice, some sort of whatever in order to transfer those funds?
Through you, Madam Chair.
Yes, please,
I
Joe.
don't believe so, as all they have to prove is that it's for the modernization, automation, or operations of the registry. Whether a lawsuit's operations, that's above my pay grade.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
I guess I would have to agree with Commissioner Collins on this as far as, the optics, if you will, of, and Mr. Collins, Mr. Connors as well, that, the commissioners may not be thrilled about this, but, we also can't be seen as obstructionary. If we don't give him the money to do that, what he needs to do, or allow him to transfer the money to do what he needs to do, that could come back to bite the county and, down the road. So it is definitely a precarious position, that's for sure.
Okay, all right.
I'm going to jump back in. Hopefully my bandwidth will stick in there, but
Thanks, Commissioner. Yes.
I don't think we're being sued, so we can't do it. You guys aren't being sued. You can do whatever you want.
All right, so maybe the larger question is, does the Finance Committee recommending to the Advisory Board this kind of an expense? Do we think we should recommend this kind of an expense to the Advisory Board? in a supplemental transfer.
I'll make a motion to get it off the table that we support the $40,000.
Okay. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Okay, Carl. Okay, so we're taking a vote on on whether or not we're going to support this $40,000 going forward. Let me go through a roll call for this one item, and then we'll come back into the rest of the supplemental budget.
Madam
This
Chair,
is just a
Yes,
recommendation.
please. Yes,
Madam Chair,
I'm
this
ready.
is
I'm
just-
open for recommendations. Go for it. Yes.
This is just a
Madam Chair,
recommendation from the Finance Committee to the full advisory board. They get to vote.
That's exactly right. Did I say it? I misspoke. I'm sorry. Did I say it
that's
wrong?
okay. Madam Chair, a
Yes,
question to the
please.
motion, please.
Yes.
So I mean, I know we could, but would it be appropriate to do a little more due diligence on this to determine, number one, to the Deputy Treasurer's point, is this within operations? And two, I mean, is this something that's just going to be a continual ask? You know, if they go through the 40, they're coming back again with more. I mean, we don't know exactly what it's for. We can assume what it's for, but, and I don't know if the registry could provide us with additional information. And, you know, maybe it's not now, maybe it's on the floor of the advisory board, but I don't think it would be hurtful.
You're considering, you're wondering if you should amend the motion to to table it until we can gather more information. Is that what you're suggesting, Joe? To
No,
table the
not
motion?
necessarily, just,
No,
no, we can vote it, but should we also have additional information to vote for it on
I
the
see.
floor? You know, it could be with a recommendation that additional information be, because without the presence
Together.
of the registry to articulate the reason for this and provide data, the treasurer was good to do it. I don't understand why the registry wouldn't do it for a significant amount in the transfer.
Okay, so you're right, your amendment to the motion
I
is,
throw that out there, but because it is out of the 64D,
you just got muted, Joe.
sorry, I think I got cut off by my web power here. But my question is, are we doing the right thing in the line to align ourselves with the statute itself? The 64D money can be used for operations. Is that being done? And maybe he needs more than $40,000. I don't know. But is that the correct amount? You know, has he done his due diligence? You know, $40,000 is a lot different than $10,000.
So is your suggestion, are you making a friendly amendment to the motion that we approve it with the idea that we gather more information before the advisory board meeting on the 29th about this particular item?
Or that, yeah, and that be presented at that time. I'm okay with that.
so we're voting to include it in the supplemental budget, but for further discussion on the floor of the NCAB full meeting.
Yeah,
Is
and
that what we're talking about?
yes, and proposing that we gather more information from the register directly prior to that meeting. Is that, do I understand you correctly, Joe? Joe Burton? You're muted.
Having issues here. And I don't know if we can do this, and I defer to a parliamentarian to assist me, but it's almost a conditional approval. So, and I don't want to get the other items tied into that because the other items are pretty cut and dried. But if that's something we could do, alternatively, I suppose we could vote to remove it from the other package and ask for the additional information. You know,
Okay,
approve pending the additional information.
okay, so we could handle the supplemental with two
And-
different
and I don't know-
votes. You're suggesting, right? One vote for the rest of the supplemental and one vote for this item pending further information.
Yeah, it would be conditional.
Conditional, okay? Under discussion, so that would be a friendly amendment to the motion on this particular item. What do we think
If
about that?
Paul, yeah, if Mr. Connors is willing to do that, it'd be a friendly amendment. If not, we can make an amendment to remove.
I'll take it as a friendly amendment, Joe.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay, on this single item. Okay,
Correct.
so how should we read that motion then? The motion is to approve this item with the condition that we'll gather more information from the register prior to the NCAB meeting on the 29th.
And
For
presented it
further
that night.
discussion on the floor.
Correct.
To be presented by that night, at that time, sorry.
And do we want the register to present?
That's up to the person who asked for the transfer. It's up to him, if he does it, who he sends.
Or
You're
is
only
it-
looking for
documents he gives
additional
us for us to
information,
consider.
so at that point, you will be asking the registrar for the information that's gonna support or reject this.
Okay, all right.
So
Can I ask discussion?
Madam Chair, if I
Eric?
could, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
please, Joe, go ahead. No,
What if we do this? Because the register is not here, if Mr. Connors is willing to walk back his motion, we make a motion to approve this, except for that, remove that item. And then we could have a brief meeting prior to the meeting of the advisory board to, take the information, give it to us and vote to make a recommendation at that time.
I don't think so, Joe. I'd rather keep the motion in as it is.
Okay,
Have it in there and we'll get additional information and we could change our vote before the meeting if we have to.
Okay.
okay.
So, all right.
Can
And
we
we'll plan
do
a
that though,
finance
Paul?
committee.
I mean,
No, I'm asking, we can't change our vote unless we're in session, no.
well, I thought Dr. Giles said we were gonna have a meeting before.
No, that was my recommendation.
Oh,
Joe, let's take your
I thought.
recommendation and have a finance committee meeting prior to the NCAB meeting on the 29th.
in
Briefly.
case we have to amend this.
In case we have to amend our recommendation.
Perfect, sounds good.
Okay, all right. So what we've got on the floor right now is a motion to approve this $40,000 item separate from the rest of the supplementals with the condition that we're going to gather more information, reconvene as a finance committee prior to the NCAB to either assert that that's true, we want to make this recommendation to support it, or based on other information, we may not, but the idea is we're going to approve it with that condition. Do I have that correct, everybody?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So let's take a vote on this single motion, then we'll go back and vote the whole supplemental. All right, Eric Beckerman,
Aye.
Carl,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye,
and Elizabeth votes aye. Okay, that's it. Bill, you got that? Bill Buckley? Okay, all right. Now,
Yes.
Thank you so
Phil's
much.
taking the minutes.
all right, okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Phil. Okay. All right, Phil. Okay, then the last two items on the main supplemental are the Wollaston Golf Course. Is there any discussion about those items?
Oh, ma'am.
Okay, and the IT, any discussion about those items? That's all very straightforward. Okay. Anything else? Okay, all right. So I would accept a motion to move that we recommend approval of the supplementals as presented, minus the 40,000 that we handled separately. John, yep,
Madam Chair, I presume
Please.
you'll need a assistance with the numbers as I started this meeting. I'll be happy to inform your committee of what that value is because it
Yes.
includes other transactions that are just transfers that
yes,
were not listed here. So
yes.
when you're
we-
ready, I'll be happy to help you with that.
We-
If you, go ahead.
I think we're ready.
All right.
I think we're ready for that, the language for this motion.
So if you approve all the capital items, the request would be to approve a total of $1,378,305 offset for capital supplemental appropriation. I'll be happy to repeat that number if you wish.
Think, and everybody should have that on their sheet, on their document. Okay, do we need a repeat on that, or could we have a motion for that item?
Could you repeat the number, John? I'm sorry.
1,378,305.
And that is for the capital supplemental budget for our first supplemental this in FY '22.
Correct.
So I will make a motion to approve the $1,378,305 capital supplemental budget as presented.
Second?
Seconded.
Thanks, Paul. All in favor, let's see. Carl,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
and Elizabeth votes aye. Okay. Okay, the next one, John.
Will be the operating. Madam Chair, if I could ask, do you wish for this number to include or exclude the $40,000 registry item for the registry of deeds, legal item for the registry of deeds?
I think it should exclude it. Is there a parliamentarian that feels differently about that?
Well,
We handled that separately.
we're not excluding it from, did we exclude it from the other list? Or did we just, I mean, as I understand it, we voted that we're gonna take it up separately as a talking point,
It's been
But-
included.
but it's still included in the list.
Right, but we voted the capital budget. Now we're voting the operating budget, and we handled that as a separate item.
So I would assume that means we want to do the same thing here, to
Yeah,
be consistent.
so I think we would handle it as a separate item on this list, John, not as one of the included items on this list, I would think.
Okay, give me one
Uh,
second. Let me do some quick math then.
Okay,
1,536,306.54.
Why don't we just deal with the registry matter? So you want to approve the transfer of the registry with the conditions that the finance committee just stipulated. Is that correct?
yes,
Then I would make a motion that your committee would approve of the transfer from registry deeds excise funds, a sum of $40,000 for legal fees associated with the registry of deeds, contingent upon the vote that your board just took.
yes, that's correct. That's our recommendation to the advisory board. Okay,
So that is an offered motion. One of your board members will have to make that motion.
would anyone like to make that motion?
I'll do
Paul.
it.
Paul's making the motion. Do we have a second?
Second,
Thanks, Eric. Okay, let's go through the roll call. Carl,
Aye.
Eric,
aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Elizabeth votes aye. Okay, that's great. Okay, the next one, John?
The next one is a operating transfer totaling $1,769,838.94. These would be offsets associated with the items I presented earlier that are associated with your operating budget, exclusive of the registry item. I'll
Okay,
be happy to repeat that number if you want, Eric.
No, I got it. Thanks. This time I was paying attention,
okay. All right, do I have a motion for that?
I will make the motion.
Thanks, Eric. Okay, a second.
Seconded.
Carl? Is that
Second.
you? Okay. All right, let's vote it. Carl,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I think that handles the supplementals, correct?
Yes.
And thank you Treasurer, for hanging in there with us while we did all that. We appreciate it. You're muted, Michael.
He said, thank you. We can read his lips.
So,
Yeah,
thank you very much.
There he is.
you're very welcome.
I'm back.
Use it wisely. All right, we have the proposed ARPA grant budget. John, are you doing that one?
Yes.
Okay,
So I know the Finance Committee is sensitive on time, so I'll try to be brief, but the packet you should have received included a few items, including a one-page proposed American Rescue Plan Act administrative budget model, as well as a copy of a presentation that the county commissioners and I did on August 23rd to the 28 cities and towns in Norfolk County. So briefly, as you all understand, this is informative. Your committee does not need to take a vote on this, as it is a grant and handled by the commissioners. We're trying to be transparent and let you folks know how the county is going to implement this program and collaborate, obviously, with the other two counties that we're in concert with. So briefly, back in July, the county commission is elected to accept the $137 million federal American Rescue Plan Act on behalf of the cities and towns in Norfolk County. The Norfolk County Treasurer has received 1/2 of that amount already. The federal government has split that grant into 2 tranches. The second half will arrive next year. So the money is currently in the custody of the treasurer in the amount of approximately $68 million. Over the last several months, the county is engaged in a number of different administrative tasks to understand the best way to deliver these funds and be accountable to the federal government for compliance and reporting purposes. In short, the county has voted to join a tri-county model primarily sponsored by Plymouth County to share resources and costs. Back in early August, I believe it was, the county commissioners agreed to sign on with 3 institutions which will help the county administer this grant. The first is Clifton Larson Allen. They're the primary consultant / CPA firm that is developing the portal, the software program, as well as the first line of compliance. The second line of compliance is Powers and Sullivan, a well-known municipal auditing firm who has some experience working with CARES Act, and they will be very effective as a second line of defense. The third piece is not so much compliance on program as it is compliance with the law. We've hired Mintz Levin to represent the county. All 3 counties are using the same 3 vendors. The legal compliance is a little bit more intense. The American Rescue Plan Act, as you know, is a very large, one of the largest federal programs ever delivered. It is a 3-year grant program that has an additional 2 years in the back end to close out administrative tasks. When we spoke with the cities and towns back on August 23rd, we've done some work going directly to several of the cities and towns in Norfolk County, have one-on-ones. What is the flavor? What do you folks want? What are the boundaries of your feelings on administrative costs? We met with Milton. We met with Norwood. We had a conversation with Canton. We gathered as much information as we could, and also Medway, from a blend of different communities and sizes in Norfolk County. In short, the rule is we are going to charge 2.5% of the total cost of the grant against the grant recipient values, and we're going to use that to fund the program. There's an additional 1/2 of 1%, which the county will withhold for ARPA-related projects that we envision having a need over the next 3 years. I will tell you that initially, when we evaluated how much eligible ARPA money or eligible ARPA projects the county had in its queue, we looked into our 5-year capital plan, and I enumerated just under $1 million worth of projects, mainly in our courthouses, where we could upgrade HVAC systems and other systems that affect clean air and safe operations. So we feel as though we do have a need for project-related improvements from the pandemic. And our projects will likely also include the agricultural school. I should have thrown them in. The model that you have in front of you is a little bit more than spitballing. We really don't know an awful lot yet, but I wanted to give you this view. And if you have the spreadsheet in front of you, hopefully you do, I'll walk you through it very briefly. We currently are collecting interest on this particular grant. The Treasurer's Office has secured a DUNS certified bank, and we are collecting interest at a rate of approximately $68,500 a year on the balance that's in the account. If we don't spend it, we'll collect about that amount in interest. So broadly, what I've estimated is between all 3 years and the total tranche of monies coming in, we'll probably land around $68,000 in total for interest gained over the next 3 years. But that's a wild ass guess because we don't know how fast we will liquidate this cash and how often, or I should say how much money the bank will hold for interest. So it's a conservative estimate, but as you can see, it's far from what's needed to support these costs. But we will complement that cost with the 2.5%, which is $3.4 million, as well as I mentioned, the 685,000 that we'll use for projects. What I've done here is to try to show you a little bit about what the one-time cost might look like. So Clifton Larson is developing a software portal. This thing is projected to be around $300,000. Right now, there are 3 counties in the compact: Plymouth, Bristol, and Norfolk. Yesterday, the Barnstable County Commissioners were slated to take a vote, excuse me, to possibly join us. If they do, we save money. It'll be divided by 4. But currently, you can see our share for that estimated cost for the Clifton Larson startup is $100,000. The Powers and Sullivan is just an estimate. How much will they need to set up their systems for compliance? It's about another $20,000. And then finally, the Min startup cost, again, they're setting up a one-time portal. We're looking at about $38,000. Beyond the one-time cost, then there's the annual cost. So picture ourselves somewhere 6 months from now. The portal is up, the compliance is underway, they're using the tools, but we may be using the experts that we signed on for with Clifton Larson and Powers and Sullivan and Mintz beyond their startup position. In other words, hourly rate, the meter's running. We hope not to have that happen. We hope to set it up and let the program run, but I'm cautiously estimating that based on one of these individuals in each of these firms, based on their rates, which are shown on that sheet, working 40 hours a week for 52 weeks a year, in year 1, we'll spend just under $1.5 million. In year 2, I'm projecting things will settle down a lot and we won't be as active with the hourly rate. And again, my model shows about half of the initial first year. And so subsequently, we'll be spending $733,000 in year 2, and again in year 3. So following this brief model, I'm showing that broadly speaking, we should be spending between one-time and annual costs over the next 3 years, somewhere around $3.1 million. The 2.5% that we're holding for administration will easily allow us some flexibility if those numbers go haywire. And I want to add that the $685,000 is not shown here. That was just presented as what the county will use towards its projects. We don't intend to use that to administer the program. If anyone asked the Finance Committee of Norfolk or any public body, what do you think would be a reasonable cost for administrative expenses associated with a federal grant? And you said 2.5%, most people would say you're getting a damn good deal. We understand that one county south of us has voted to charge approximately 10%. Our county, cities and towns made it very clear to us that they have designs and ideas of how to spend their slice of money, which will be predicated upon the 2019 census. And the less that the county takes, the more they can do. The commissioners have made it very clear. They want to put the cities and towns first. We work for them. So our goal is to make sure that we support them 100% when the portal gets up, that we give them as much information as possible to make them successful. And then ultimately, within a year or so, begin pivoting into taking care of the Norfolk County properties and using the federal resources to our benefit, but not before any of our cities and towns get that. And I want to add, I think Avon is the smallest community in Norfolk County. Is that correct, Eric? Right. I don't know if you've heard, Eric.
Who do I have to make a deal with to get more of that money?
You probably know Avon is how much Avon is expected to get. I will tell you off the top here, it is $883,000. We wanted to make sure that the county was not in any way gaining more money in its slice of this than the smallest community in Norfolk County. Okay, so that we achieved. Overall, we feel very cautiously optimistic about rolling out the program. We've got solid support. We are sharing the burden with other counties, which I think is a huge gain for you folks and our commissioners to say we're optimizing county government in a way that everybody expects us to do so. Some of you may know when I started here through my interview process, It was clear to me that regional services was an area of growth that they wanted the county to grow into. I've met a lot with Bill Buckley over the last several months and the commissioners, and we're trying to thoughtfully plan strategically ways to enrich our relationships with the cities and towns and to begin giving them solid services that are a benefit to them, especially for the assessments that they pay us. ARPA presents to me the first and most meaningful space that we can actively work with every single city and town. It's a tremendous opportunity over the next 3 years to show them the benefit of county government. And I know our partners in Plymouth and our partners in Bristol feel the same way. This is an exciting time for county government to show what we can do. We're doing it much cheaper than the state can. We're going to be doing it in a way that I don't want to say it's audit proof, but we're very comfortable with the levels of compliance that we feel we've baked into this. We're slightly ahead of the state with disbursement of this non-NEU money. And I think we're in a good position ultimately to succeed. This afternoon, I just wanted to make sure our finance committee understood what we're doing and how we intend to optimize these resources. And I'm really happy to answer any questions you might have on ARPA. Again, it's a little premature. Probably by Christmas time we'll meet again. I'll have better stories to tell you about how well we're doing.
So John, the fact the county's getting a little less than Avon, is that supposed to make me feel better or?
It's exactly right. Do you feel it?
Oh, all right, good. All
It's a
right.
hug right here.
Virtual hug.
Any questions for John on ARPA?
I have a question, John.
Paul?
John, on the sheet that you presented dated August 23rd, the allocation of funds by municipality, the towns all have that now?
They should. It's on our website too, Paul. It was
Okay.
distributed, I believe, through that portal, but they can gain it anytime on the Norfolk County Commissioner's website, as well as the PowerPoint I also did is up on the website. Go ahead, Paul, sorry.
Are there any questions on the allocations? by
No.
any of them?
No, not one question on the allocation.
Okay, very good.
I'd like to tell this story because I did tell this to the Tri-County meetings. We had two communities. I think Randolph was one. It was either Randolph or Stoughton, but more importantly, Bellingham contacted me. They were lost. They've got NEU money. They now have county money. And between the CFO and the town administrator, they didn't have the expertise to handle a grant. So when they saw the presentation, they lit up and they said, oh, this is great. The CFO sent me a list of 12 questions. Do these projects, will these projects fit within the purpose area of ARPA? I immediately turned that over to Clifton Larson. CLA gave a great 1-paragraph response to each project. It was really well done. And the CFO wrote back, I cannot thank you enough. This is the best response that I could ever imagine on this topic, and it came from county government. So I share that with all our friends down in Plymouth and Bristol. It was the first response from a customer on our ability to deliver ARPA funds and ARPA information, and I think we wildly succeeded. There's a lot to deal with ARPA. It's a very dense, highly complicated, highly compliant grant. This is not your father's federal grant. And let's face it, we're all in the public space. Tens and hundreds of millions of dollars are on the table. When we're done, we want to be squeaky clean. We don't want anybody looking over our shoulder saying, what made you think that was a good idea? These levels of compliance and these levels of security are going to keep us all in a good space to the benefit of the cities and towns, and most importantly, keep us out of trouble by misuse of funds, which of course is everybody's worst nightmare. So again, Paul, I just wanted to share that quick Bellingham story because I know it's a smaller city and town in Norfolk County, but again, the smaller the county, the smaller the community, the less resources. And she was lost, and we were able to answer questions. So hopefully that helps.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome, my friend.
Thanks, John. Any other questions? Okay. In the interest of time, I would recommend that we move on and just vote the minutes of the meeting of July 27th and July 28th. We'll table the discussion of the schedule. Minutes of the meeting of July 27th and 2021. Is there a motion for approval?
Motion to approve.
Eric, second? Who's that? Paul, thank you. Okay, let's vote those. Carl,
Aye.
Eric,
I,
Paul,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Joe Reardon is not on, had to leave the meeting. Okay, the second one is the minutes of the joint meeting of July 28th, 2021. Do I have a motion for approval?
motion to approve.
Second,
Second.
thanks, Carl. Any discussion? Okay, let's take a vote. Carl,
Aye.
Eric,
I,
Paul,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Okay. In the interest of time, we're really running over, guys. I'm so sorry about that. Is there any other topic that we have to discuss today? Hearing none. I'll accept a motion to adjourn the meeting.
motion to adjourn.
I've got 3 motions. All right, we'll take Paul. You got the motion, Paul. Eric, second.
Second,
Okay, all right. And we'll vote it. Carl,
Aye.
Eric,
I.
Paul,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you all very much and look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you,
John,
Madam Chair.
thanks for everything.
Thanks, John.
Take care.
Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
John. Bye.
See you later.